Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. SoupX, the Startup Expo, North America's premier startup conference, is March 6th and 7th, 2017, in sunny Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Affordably priced, SoupX is a 2-day international conference featuring workshops, panels, speeches, a $50,000 startup competition, and over 100 exhibitors. For more information, go to sup-x.org. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Alex Choi. He's the founder at ArlixMeet. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, man, I had to have you on the show. I think what you're doing is super important, really cool, and I love the fact that you're so young and you're doing so much. And so maybe kind of before we get into what you're doing, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with kind of, I guess, where you grew up.
Yeah, sure.
Or where you're growing up, I should say.
Yeah, sure. So I'm 15 and
That's awesome.
I've spent my life so far around London in the UK. Yeah, and there's a great tech startup entrepreneurship emphasis here, which I think is definitely good, especially for young people.
Sure. So you're in high school, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you're doing all this other stuff in your spare time outside of
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Do you have plans to go on to university or something, or are you just going to see what happens? You're still pretty young, you can decide, but
Yeah. A lot of people ask me whether I want to go to university. I probably will. I think at the moment I'm in between choosing whether I really want to go into business or whether it's a hobby at the moment. And I guess where my ventures take me now will ultimately determine what sort of path I take. But I definitely am interested in this sort of entrepreneurship thing. And either way, I'll probably go to university. Yeah.
sure. No, I think that makes sense. And you still have a few years before you need to really
Yeah.
decide on that. And I love the fact that you're so young and you're doing this stuff. So I'm curious to know kind of what got you kind of passionate about getting into technology so young.
Well, I guess it's when I've got an iPod Touch when I was about 10,
Okay.
and I saw apps and stuff. Started downloading them. I always wondered what it would be like to create my own. So I guess I started looking into coding online, and I joined a coding club at my school. And then slowly on, I learned to code. And then a few years ago, I decided to take a more entrepreneurial stance. I gathered a few other young people online through online forums and to create a team, which I thought then we could start to create more business viable products.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So you had a coding thing in high school or junior high? What is it called over in the UK? Middle school?
Well, like secondary school.
Secondary school. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had that, and then you met a bunch of people, I'm assuming across the world, that you kind of
Yeah.
collaborated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what did you kind of do with that? Is that kind of what formed Arlux Technologies, or kind of walk me through how that came to be?
Yeah, that's sort of what really formed Arlix Technologies. So, I just went on Twitter. There's an amazing community of teenagers on the Facebook groups and through Twitter and stuff who show off their projects and stuff. And I've managed to sort of get into those networks and, find some people who might be interested in working with me and stuff. And, slowly we started to form a team. And for the time that we've had a team, it's definitely changed a lot, like the personnel. But yeah, I guess it's amazing what sort of people you can meet online. That's sort of how it came together.
Sure. No, and we'll get into kind of exactly what Arlux Technologies is in a second.
Yeah.
But I'm curious just to go a little bit further, and for any other kind of teens out there listening, you mentioned kind of Facebook and Twitter, but how did you kind of come up with the courage and stuff to kind of reach out to people online? Because it can be scary, especially when you're a bit younger, right?
I guess.
Or you just went for it?
Yeah, I guess I just really went for it. I mean, I think it's easier reaching out to people online rather than, approaching them and going, "Hey, do you want to join my company?"
Very much so.
And a lot of other people do it too. So, you're definitely not alone when you do it. And many people share the same hobby. So for most people, it's a common interest. So there's nothing awkward about it. But, I think just start talking to people, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to meet people.
Sure. So when you're reaching out to people, what did you kind of say to them? Like, check out my project, or do you want to collaborate, or how did you kind of start reaching out to people?
Yeah, sort of like that. I mean, normally, I just ask them whether they can code, and then I tell them a bit about the project, and then if they like it, then we talk a bit more about their skills and the rest of the team's skills, and yeah, really, that's how most people do it. They just, if they have an idea, they share it, and many people are often interested in joining a project like this. So,
sure. So when you were first kind of searching for these groups, do you have any recommendations that you could give kind of other teens, either on Facebook or Twitter or online, of places they can go to kind of get involved in the community?
Yeah, so on Facebook, there's a group called High School Hackers. There's also Hackathon Hackers. Those are two very big groups with a lot of teen entrepreneurs and developers in it. Okay. And on Twitter, if you can often find a lot of if you just search WWDC Scholars is a Apple offer scholarships to young people who code to go to their conference each year, and often if you just search for those sorts of people, then you can network with them, and they know often people too on Twitter. So there's many ways, but once you start to know a few, then you quickly get to know many more.
Sure, and it kind of snowballs, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what exactly is Arlux Technologies, and why did you decide to kind of found it?
Well, it's a startup run by students all across the world. I guess I found it because I wanted to create apps and stuff, platforms, but one person can't do everything. And I thought, well, if I can't do everything, then I'm sure I can find someone else who can do these things. And I thought it'd be really cool to collaborate. Well, I believe a few people is better than one. So, yeah, I guess I wanted some people with better skill sets. So, for example, I'm not the best at designing, and I'm not the best at front end type development. So, I asked around for people who can do things I'm not so good at, and yeah, I guess that's how we formed a team. And yeah, we've got such a variety of skill sets between us, which makes it so good.
No, that's great, man. I think that's awesome. And so, obviously, you just kind of met these people online. Have you ever met any of these people that you've worked on in person at something yet?
Yeah, we have actually. So we've started doing events now. So we've hosted a few hackathons and also some other conferences, and through that, I've invited some of our team to join us at those, and I've also met new team members at those too. So we're also starting to find new team members offline as well as online.
Okay, very cool. So you guys have kind of built a couple apps. Do you kind of want to talk about exactly what you guys are building?
Well, we've retired many of our past products to focus on our new one. But our new one is basically an e-learning platform, a bit like Khan Academy or Udemy, things like that, that we want to really add a social aspect, a bit like school. So we want to really create an online classroom, which is really social. So, a bit like how you might watch YouTube tutorials on how to cook. We want to integrate as many of sort of those as possible into one place and allow users to interact with each other. So, a bit like how you would in class and stuff. So that's what we're currently creating.
Okay, and when do you think that's going to launch?
In January is when we're planning to launch it, so quite soon.
Okay, no, that's very cool. And so I'm curious then, have you found, because you guys are like obviously teenagers, have you guys found any, like, what are the pros and cons, I guess, of being that young and founding a company? Like, you got to have tremendous support from the design and development community and kind of the tech community as a whole, correct?
In some aspects. I mean, currently at this time, there's a lot of young people doing it. So I think a few years ago it was a bit rarer, but now it's more common. But even so, if you talk to the average adult, they'll be pretty surprised. I mean, some teachers at school didn't really believe that I did have one, but then they saw some things online and then they believed it. So, a lot. Well, I guess one of the cons is people don't always take you seriously, but I guess one of the pros is that more people would notice our work, I guess, since we're younger. It's quite a big surprise that a young group of students could achieve so much. I guess that's quite a surprise to some people. But yeah, not being taken seriously all the time is a problem. But I found that recently, actually, adults are becoming more accustomed to young people trying to take on proper projects.
Sure. Well, I think like part of the reason I wanted to have you on the show was to kind of hopefully inspire other teams, across the globe to do what you're doing or work with you guys in some way, because I think it's super important, right? And in a lot of ways you've accomplished what a lot of people maybe never do in a lifetime already, and you're so young. And I think the story that I really like about you is I think that it doesn't really matter what age you are. If you really have a passion for something, with the internet you can find people across the globe to make that passion a reality.
Yeah, of course.
And so I'm curious then, you're launching a project in January, you're working with people across the globe. How's that been, working with people kind of in different time zones and kind of all over the map, right? And kind of managing that while going to school?
It's definitely been a challenge. We've tried to create many models and structures to try and create as efficient workflow as possible. I don't think we have a perfect solution to that, and I don't think we ever will. But there's many ways. So I try to spread it out, like the management a bit. So I try and have someone to try coordinate maybe the East more, or someone to coordinate the West, so then we can have, let's say, meetings for certain time zones and stuff. But most of the time, at the weekend, we try to have a big team get together and try to get us all together. I mean, it's quite hard to coordinate since all our school schedules, they don't really match up. So, some people have holidays when others don't, which in a way is quite good, because then we're not one of us is always free normally. So, right.
No, I think that's great. And so let's maybe dive a little bit deeper into the kind of the platform. You quickly kind of gave an overview, but what exactly are you guys kind of building?
So it's a social e-learning platform. So we sort of want to create a place where you can learn anything, free and we want anyone to be able to teach on the platform, a bit like YouTube, but for learning.
Okay.
We want anyone to be able to learn on it. And we also want to allow users to interact each other, make friends while learning something. So, if I really had a passion for cooking, I could learn with other people who want to learn how to cook. And and let's say I'm really good at, singing. I could teach singing courses on Learn Plus.
Okay. So on this Learn Plus platform, how is it just for kind of teens? Is it for people of any age, or have you kind of not really defined a market?
Uh, from a business aspect, I do want to keep it niche because niche products do normally work. But we are targeting it at all ages. We don't
Okay.
really have a target demographic because uh, you know there are older people who wish they learned something, and I think that Learn Plus could be a worthwhile platform for them. But there's also lots of young people who might want to use Learn Plus to, let's say, catch up on their maths revision or something. So really, there's potential for Learn Plus to be used in many different ways and for many different people.
Sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, who came up with the original concept for Learn Plus? Was it you, or was it the team, or how did it kind of come to be?
I came up with the original concept. However, the team has contributed to how the final form and how it works and stuff. So it's gone through a lot of tweaking. But I guess my inspiration for it was when I was learning to code, I was constantly going onto different websites, looking for good quality courses on how to code. But I spent so much time searching for good courses that I spent a lot of time wasted. So originally, I just wanted to create one place where you could go to learn something. However, we've now tried to add a lot more aspects into it to make it more competitive.
Sure, that makes sense. So, how big is the team working on it right now, or does it kind of fluctuate?
It really does fluctuate. People come and go maybe every few months, really, depending on their uh, other commitments, really. However, at the moment on this project, we have about 12. We have a few other smaller side projects, but we don't really focus on those with a few other people.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so, how long have you guys been actively kind of developing Learn Plus?
We've been developing Learn Plus for almost a year. Unlike, let's say, an adult development team, we can't build things nearly as quickly. Well, first of all, we don't have as much experience, and
Sure.
second of all, we don't have as much time. But we do try to get things done as fast as possible.
Okay. So, how much time on average would you say you try to put into the platform and kind of the ventures that you're doing outside of school in a week?
Uh, I'm not really sure. It depends on my week, to be honest. I mean,
Okay.
my homework load varies each week, so I really base it around that. But I do try to commit at least like 1 or 2 hours a day,
Oh, wow.
and more at the weekend. But during exam periods, maybe not as much. And also, if I do have exams, then normally someone else takes my role temporarily while I have those. So we do things like that to make sure that it doesn't too heavily impact our school commitments too.
Right. I guess that is kind of the most important focus at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, fair enough. So I'm kind of curious then. You also recently ran a kind of a conference,
yeah.
and I'm curious. I know it's over now, but I'm assuming you're going to do more throughout. In either maybe in 2017 and whatnot. But
Yeah.
what exactly was the Arlix Meet, and why did you kind of decide to do a conference?
So ArlixMeet is a conference for teen entrepreneurs to come together and meet, share, and learn. That's normally our sort of catchphrase for it.
Sure.
Um, it sort of came about when earlier this year, actually, I started going to some networking events, getting to know more people in the tech startup sectors, and I noticed that there weren't many events where, well, first of all, teen entrepreneurs are welcomed, and also, if you are a teen entrepreneur, you don't really know what events to go to. So I wanted to create a conference specifically targeted towards teen entrepreneurs. And I slowly got to meet many teen entrepreneurs in the UK, and I learned that there definitely are quite a few around. So I thought, well, I might as well create a place for them to sort of get together. So originally I was thinking, okay, maybe just have like 50 people in a room talk for an hour and stuff, and maybe exchange business cards. But then I thought I could add some extra aspects. So we got speakers who were either teen entrepreneurs themselves or adults who maybe started businesses when they were younger, and we tried to have some like breakout sessions and stuff for people to share their ideas. And overall, we had about 150 teen entrepreneurs from around the UK attend in London on the 3rd of August, and yeah, I'd say went pretty successful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good feedback. When we definitely hope to expand in the future, not only in size, but we hope to go to many other locations too in the UK and also around the world.
Sure. And you had it at the Google campus in London, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you get, obviously everybody's heard of Google, but
Yeah.
how did you get them kind of involved in backing you and the conference?
Well, actually, we're very lucky in London because Google have a special space for, a co-working space for entrepreneurs, and anyone can sort of apply to become a member of that. And you can also apply to have events there, and we luckily they let us have an event there free of charge. And so it's a pretty cool place to have events, and there are lots of tech events there and also entrepreneurship events.
Sure. No, I think that's awesome, and your turnout, especially for a first event, is actually really good, right?
Yeah.
And so, do you have another one planned for 2017, or is it still kind of too early?
We're currently planning the 2017 one. We hope to have in 2017. We're going to have it in London again. We were planning on maybe going international. We thought it was slightly too early, so we're going to stay in London next year, and we hope to maybe scale up to 300 teen entrepreneurs. So hopefully we can meet that. I'm sure we can do it in our second year, since our first year went quite well. So yeah.
Sure. And then did Google kind of help you with any of the promotion or kind of support the event in any way? I know they gave you like free space and whatnot, but did they sponsor the thing or give you anything else?
They promoted us through their London campus social media channels, and they also they helped with some other much smaller things, though not so much on the side of sponsorship, but
okay.
They've been helpful all along, and much of the planning took place there. So yeah.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Even the fact that they gave you a free space is pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, you're doing all these things. What do you kind of see? What's your next kind of thing you're going to tackle? Like, obviously you have this Learn Pluses, on the horizon, the launch of that. You're working on a conference. Is there kind of anything else that you're working on that you want to kind of talk about? Because I think you have quite the fascinating story. You're still in, you're 15 and you're doing all these things that a lot of adults never end up doing, right?
Yeah. Well, from the conference, I guess I've got to meet so many other people doing so many things, and many people think a teen entrepreneur is automatically someone who's in the tech industry. And although there are a lot of teen entrepreneurs who are in tech, I've met many who are in other things too, such as fashion and things like that. So I think maybe after Learn Plus, I've got a few more ideas for tech projects. And I've also got a few ideas for maybe things that aren't solely tech based. So I definitely want to explore more areas of business and not just stay in tech. But there's so much to do, and I think or so much I could do, and I think why stop with one thing?
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so I'm curious then, how do you guys kind of plan on monetizing Learn Plus?
So I guess a bit like Spotify, we've got a premium version too. So Learn Plus Premium basically allows you to have 24/7 tutoring. So let's say I'm doing I'm doing geography revision on Learn Plus or something. I could get a live tutor instantly like that if I want to like ask some questions and stuff. So
Okay.
I guess that's sort of an aim. So people can get professional live help when they need it. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's really interesting. And so is that going to roll out in January as well, or is that kind of later on down the road?
That will be slightly later on down the road. We believe that for Learn Plus's success, the key is a user base.
Sure.
Because without a user base, since much of our key features are based on social interaction, and since the courses aren't made by us but anyone, we do need the user base there first. And I think it would be very hard to monetize if we do not have the users first. So, I think for us, money is not the main priority. I mean, we don't have many overheads, and most of the reason we do this project isn't because of the money. And I mean, loads of people say that. Some people mean it, some people don't. But like,
Sure.
for us, it's just a hobby and something to, well, if all fails, it's something to go on our resume or CV at the end of the day. So,
Yeah, you'll learn tons.
yeah, although we do hope, although we do take this seriously and we do want it to become a real product, there's no loss for us at the moment, really, apart from our time.
Sure. And well, even like I think just getting people to talk about it and cover it in different social media channels and marketing channels, I think that will help you a lot too. And I think even just, I think you and I could do another show kind of around the
Yeah,
launch of Learn Plus, just so you can hopefully get some traction a little bit more in America. But you mentioned just kind of overhead and not really necessarily caring about money, and that you don't really have a lot
yeah,
of overhead right now. But did you guys? Obviously there's some costs just from like
yeah,
server
yeah.
side of things, and you know, and other kind of just general kind of costs. So did you guys raise some money? Are you guys self-funded, or kind of how does that work? Or is everybody that's involved in the project just kind of expected to cover their own costs?
We don't expect our developers to cover our own costs, but we do have another side of Arlix which we do use to cover finances. So we do some web design consultancy services, stuff like that, in order to uh, earn some finances. So uh, yeah, like we go to the your average coffee shop, restaurant, and offer to build them maybe a website, increase their digital outreach, and from that we can uh, gain some funds in order to fund our projects. Although that's not really enough for what we think in the future. So in the future, we definitely consider maybe approaching VCs, things like that. Maybe try crowdfunding. However, I'm pretty sure that's quite hard. So uh, we'll see where the finances road takes us in the future. However, for now, we're pretty self-funded.
Sure. No, I think that's awesome. And I think there's a lot of startups and a lot of startups that do exactly what you guys are doing, and they just don't mention that they still take on, client work to fund some of their, product-based work. And I think it's super important to kind of stress that again, that, like you kind of almost have to do what you got to do to fund the stuff that you really want to do, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So how much time would you guys say you kind of spend on client work compared to actually working on the product?
I'd say almost almost 50-50.
Oh, really?
However, we can normally get client work done quite fast, and normally our team we don't put all of it back into the company. We give our team a bit for themselves. So often when they get that, then they prefer to turn out projects a lot faster. So client work we normally get done quite fast. Well, I mean, some more complicated than others, but we still have plenty of time to spend on Learn Plus. And we rotate our developers, so some are doing client work, some will stay on Learn Plus.
No, that's fascinating to me. Like, you have all these huge problems that I think a lot of companies go through almost solved, right? Like, you guys, well, I get that it doesn't always go, smoothly every time, but there's a lot of companies that are struggling with these problems that you guys are, getting through. And the fact that you guys are, so young and spread across the world, like trying to get adults in one office going the same direction can be extremely challenging. And the fact that you guys are doing this across the world is mind-boggling and fascinating to me, and it's great, man. Like, I love what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome, and I wanted to have you on the show because I think you guys have an inspiring story for a lot of young people and adults, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of coming to the end of the show. Let's maybe again kind of just close the show with mentioning where people can find you online, and that they can look forward to Learn Plus coming out in January 2017 and the ArlixMeet in London 2017.
So if there's any developers listening or designers or anyone who's interested in maybe working with us, you can just search Arlux Technologies on our website. There's all the information there that you might need. And, if you're generally just interested in us as a group and company, then you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So, yeah.
Well, perfect, Alex. I really appreciate you taking the time of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to following you guys. And I think we should do another one in January around the launch of Learn Plus. And, I guess keep up the good work. I love promoting what you're doing.
Yeah,
I
awesome.
think it's awesome. This has been great.
Yeah, I love the show too. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
You too. See you.
Bye. Thanks for listening. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.